Welcome to Restaurant Wars.
Yeah. Did it. Oh my gosh. Here we go.
Welcome to the Eat Your Content podcast. I am your host, Rich Herrera. Thank you so much for pushing play on my little pod. I appreciate it. Just a reminder to follow me on socials at Rich Herrera and at Eat Your Content on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all social media channels. And to make sure you like and subscribe at Eat Your Content wherever you get your podcast. Hit the notification bell so you know when new episodes are dropping. Program reminders, continuing on with Top Chef Season 22. We're on Episode 8, Restaurant Wars, continuing throughout the season until the season finale. We're about halfway there. Joining me once again, the incomparable Chef Savannah Miller, Top Chef Season 21 finalist and veteran of the Restaurant Wars. Thank you for coming on to talk about this event-filled, I can't believe it was only an hour episode. Just so much happening.
Technically 54 minutes. I mean, I was like...
Yeah.
That's what I thought too. I was like, how did so much happen? This was so inspiring, this whole episode, but I like being called a veteran of Restaurant Wars. Thank you.
a veteran of the Restaurant Wars. That's right. You have war stories to tell, obviously. So yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about Restaurant Wars just in general, the concept with you and your kind of experience going through it, and then talking about this one. And some of the common things I see almost in every Restaurant Wars, 22 seasons in, people still kind of making the same mistakes throughout like these many years. And I'm like, have you not watched the show? But we'll get into all that. So obviously no quick fire. We're going straight into Restaurant Wars. I do love that they know it's coming because they get the little card in the mail and Massimo reads it to say, meet at the warehouse. And Tristan's like, do you think it's big enough to host 2 pop-ups in less than 24 hours? Like,
I know.
That's funny. It's like they know.
I love how they're like, are we going to a rave? I hope it's a rave.
It would have been funny if it was a rave.
Imagine they're like, cook for all these drunk people.
Like one day they're going to throw somebody off and be like, meet at a warehouse, and it's not Restaurant Wars. It'll be like, yeah, cook for a rave. Everybody's just, coming off of an ecstasy high at 2 a.m.
Right.
Cook for them. You have 200 people.
Like that would be a good crowd because everyone's probably in a decent mood and they're like, taste buds are turned on. You know what I mean? But yeah, I feel like the commentary across this whole episode, to be honest, there's like 5 or 4 things that stood out to me as like, that was hilarious. Like just like the little quips and little comments by each chef. I feel like Lana specifically, we'll get into it, but they were silly this episode.
It was pretty funny. I mean, it was the little cute counter on the bottom of the screen, very Gen Z. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
Got to get those youth viewers in the Top Chef, right? Cute. Yeah, I'm going to use that all day today. I know, right? So let's get to the guest judges. Awesome judging group we have this time around. We have Nina Compton from Top Chef New Orleans, finalist there, and Top Chef Canada judge and founder of Gusto 54 Restaurant Group. Janet, and I forgot what her last name was. I thought I typed it in here, and I did not. But Janet was her first name. Okay. And Massimo was really thrilled about that particular judge. And the challengers created a 3-course menu with 2 options per course, so 6 dishes total. Random drawing for teams by knife draw. We had team Nona Pipon was the restaurant that they decided to name. Was Bailey Caesar. Yeah, I thought so too. And the concept. Yeah, we'll talk about that here in just a second. So team Nona Pipon was Bailey Caesar. Paula was chosen to be the executive chef, and Shuai was the front of house. And then the other group was Team Flora and Fauna. I like the concept. I wasn't too thrilled with the spelling. It's always confusing when you try to do a play on words because that tends to really mess up your search algorithm in Google. But Team Flora, P-H-L-O-R-A, and Team Fauna, P-H-A-U-N-A, was Lana, Massimo, who was front of house, Tristan, executive chef, and Vinny, going for a veg-forward kind of theme. On paper, at the beginning, before kind of all the chaos of Restaurant Wars ensued, I thought Team Nona Pipon had the better kind of theme. Very family style. I like that. I've been to a few family style restaurants and I love them. And Italian. I mean, Italian Latin. Italian Latin as a family style. How can you go wrong? And then the veg forward group, Team Flora and Fauna. I was kind of like with Massimo at the beginning. I was like, do you really want to go with the vegetable forward concept at Restaurant Wars? And so, what did you think just coming out of the gate, notwithstanding who ended up winning at the end, but when you first looked at these teams and the divisions and the concepts, what were you thinking?
I was fooled by the Top Chef edit this time, which I think I'm pretty good at not being fooled. So, especially because I think, in my head, I know what's going on behind the scenes, but like,
right.
I, was definitely watching this and I was like, I didn't feel like there was a stronger team from the beginning. I thought it was pretty like evenly matched. I feel that way about the entire season. I feel like they're all great. But, I definitely thought that they were going to have a lot of issues. Like, for it to turn out as far as like the time management issues were kind of with the other team, is in the beginning, it wasn't, right? Like you see Lana walking around, they're shopping, they're trying to make decisions. And I feel like I was very, very nervous about the four of them, not necessarily being like all stubborn, but they called it like the four-headed horse, right? Like, I do think I got fooled.
Oh, yeah. So the edit to me, the way, I don't know if I was fooled or what, but the way it was edited to me, I was like, Flora's going to win this, because the way they divided it up, or the way they divided and went shopping versus the way that Nona Papan didn't, I'm like, that's a bad choice. I said, why didn't you guys split up? You're going to have those time management issues, and that just carried throughout the entire challenge. So the edit for me, I was like, if Flora didn't win, I would have been fooled by that edit particularly.
I get you.
Yeah.
I feel like the second that you see Paula, I mean, the confessionals not give it away, but like, they're like, the second I heard Bailey say, well, me and Paula are going to go to like Whole Foods, we need to go right now, but like we wanted to shop together because we're a team. That's when it started changing. Yeah, I agree. In the front of house store where they're like buying all their cups and linens, whatever, that was when I was like, they're killing it, they're on it. I don't care if they go shopping together because they're like executing it like very well. And then they split up and the fish is in the car and I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, they left with half the groceries, and so half the team's back in the kitchen prepping, and the other half of Nona Papan's still shopping. You can't really do either one effectively because you don't have all your ingredients to prep. So you're still waiting for them. It was just a lot of chaos in there. But I want to talk about Restaurant Wars as a concept, because back in season 1, when Top Chef first started, and this is a staple challenge, this challenge will never go away, no matter how many seasons Top Chef goes on for, because it's so exciting. It's very dramatic and sphincter clenching tension. It's all of the great things about the drama of reality TV in this one episode. So this will never go away. But Restaurant Wars back then, the concept of a quote unquote pop-up restaurant wasn't as prevalent as it is today. Like pop-up restaurants today are a common thing. I mean, no, you get more than 24 hours to obviously put one together, but I think chefs coming, hopefully. But I think chefs nowadays going into Top Chef, if they go to Top Chef, have had probably a concept of running a pop-up. Have you done a lot of pop-ups in your career?
Yeah, so I think, if you haven't had the experience of just being on an opening team, right? Like I think most people come to the table like, I've opened 6 restaurants, I've opened 10 restaurants. Then you hopefully have that perspective or that experience of running your own pop-ups or working on somebody's pop-up, right? Like at the end of the day, I think they're more prevalent now because people are just realizing that they don't need to have like all this startup money to put their food and their art out there. So we're seeing a lot of people go out on these limbs and try these pop-ups. But if you haven't done that specifically, then you've definitely probably worked on an opening team for another restaurant. Me specifically, I feel like the beginning of my career was just jumping from one restaurant opening to another. And I mean, I had very humble beginnings. So like my very first job at 15 was opening the first Texas Roadhouse in Southern Pines, North Carolina. So when I say that, that's one end of the spectrum, right? But then, growing up and being in Boston and opening Townsman and being on that team under Chef Matt Jennings was like one of the top restaurants in the US that year. So I just think that you have all this experience. But for me personally, like at 15, I learned just as much as I did when I was in Boston and I was on this team at this really established place. So I just think it's about like taking those experiences and putting them in your back pocket. You never know if you're going to be on Restaurant Wars on Top Chef, but like, I think opening a restaurant and what you learn is really like applicable in a lot of other situations too. But I definitely think when you're looking at these teams, that's what everyone starts with. Like, well, I opened this place. Well, I've done this. Okay, well, I've done front of house. I've done every position. Everyone wants to like throw their resume on the table, and they should, because you have such a short amount of time to like make these really, really big decisions. And obviously it affects how the day goes, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's obviously a huge thing that people want to have, is that experience.
Yeah, yeah, and it comes into play if Top Chef is ever, you know, in your bucket list of things to do as a chef, having that skill set makes it a little easier. I mean, you're still under the time pressure, obviously, but at least you have kind of that mindset of having done it before in the past. So, I want to talk about the planning stages a little bit of Restaurant Wars. In last night's episode, it seemed very friendly, very cordial. Everybody's kind of giving and taking. In your experience, when you were on Restaurant Wars, was it that way, or was there really some kind of like butting of heads that got on that was edited on the cutting room floor?
For our Restaurant Wars, I think we had a good like vibe between Danny, Michelle, and I, and Amanda. Like, we all agreed on certain things, but I think that we were comfortable calling each other out if we didn't like something, and we did it in a way that wasn't offensive or personal. So while I don't think that it was perfectly seamless, the edit was very spot on with how it genuinely was in the moment. And I think that just comes from like, on our team, I think we did a really good job of putting our egos aside.
That's
and
good.
So that was, yeah, it was positive.
That's good. Because I remember earlier seasons, they would really show. And I think I want to say that if I were a Bravo reality TV producer and I saw some real butting of heads, that would actually make the cut, right? That would actually be in the show, because that's too juicy not to show. I think I agree with you. Watching last, what's that?
I'm sorry, it's reflective of a real restaurant. Like, it's not, you know, I think it's obviously great because we're all like, okay, we're going to get along, but there has to be an element of that, right? Like, I don't want to say that that's disingenuous, because I think that we all did get along genuinely, but you also know that you're being filmed, and you know that you don't want to look like an asshole. And so I think it's actually a little bit more realistic to show some of that when you do see it, because in a normal service, you'll have the front of house manager coming back and saying, you know, where the fuck's my ticket? Like, and you'll have the chef saying, you see how she wrote this? Like, bring this back. I'm not looking at this until you can get your servers in line. And so those moments, I do appreciate when I see it, because I think it's real, you know?
Yeah. So let's talk about the division of labor in terms of who was chosen as the executive chef and front of house for each team. So with Nona Papan, you had Paula as executive chef, and you had Shwai as front of house. And then with Flora and Fauna, you had Massimo's front of house and Tristan as executive chef. What did you think of those choices? Were they the right choices? Would you have gone something different?
Okay, so I believe that for, what is it, fauna by Flora, the PH team, I think Massimo up front is like a good call. When I saw him walking around the dining room, that's like last week, me and Justin were both like, yep, called it, like perfect front of house. You know, the critiques make sense, we'll get to it. I think having Paula as the EC, you know, I think that I don't know, I see a lot of myself in Paula, or vice versa. Like, I think people literally think that we look similar, but I also mean, I admire her in the way that she led the team. She was helpful. She's moving around. What do you need? What can I do for you? She seemed like, I could tell she was a mom in this episode. And I mean that like in such a complimentary way. I think she led with grace, and she put her best foot forward, and she didn't do that thing where things go wrong and it's not my fault, it's everybody else. Like, she owned her team, and that's what you have to do. I don't know if that would have been my first pick, but I guess not for any particular reason. I just don't know out of the four of them who I would have chosen. And then Tristan, EC, yeah, makes sense. I don't, you know, also with immunity, I think Vinny and Lana are perfect line cooks. I mean, that was like, I think the selection on Massimo, Tristan, Lana, and Vinny's team was perfection to me.
Yeah, Yeah, for sure. With Flora and Fauna, I'm just gonna go Flora. That's too much to say. So Team Flora, I think, was a perfect choice for front of house. Massimo is, or he was genetically engineered in a test tube to be front of house. I mean, just the perfect personality for that.
Yeah.
And Tristan, I initially when I saw it on the show, I think Tristan's like, look, I got immunity. I'll be EC because we all know traditionally, it's the front of the house or the EC that goes home on the losing team, just because that they're the ones that are in charge of their particular sections. If something falls, it falls on them. So Tristan's like, let me take that because I have immunity. Vinny, on the other hand, was like, well, I don't want to have Tristan on my team because now I have a 33% chance of going home instead of a 25% chance of going home. Yeah. But in terms of watching it play out, Tristan was the perfect executive chef. I mean, he took charge. He wasn't rude, like when the server messed up the ticket, right? He didn't call that server out in front of everybody. He did it right down the chain of command. He got Massimo in there. It's like, get your crew in gear. I'm not, yeah, like you're saying, I'm not going to deal with these tickets if they're not done correctly. Go fix your people. So I thought he was really good the way he took charge. For team grandmas, I probably would have went with Bailey as front of house. I think she has the personality for it. I think she's much more. She's very bubbly, and likable. Not that Schwei wasn't, but we saw how Schwei turned out in front of house. It was horrible. Like the man didn't even greet the judges.
When you asked me, I could not even think about who was front of house on that team. I mean, I just talked about everything else. I didn't even mention Schwei because until you just said that right now, I kind of forgot that that's what he was doing.
And that's bad, right? That's
oh
bad.
No. Oh no.
He was horrible. I probably would have went on Team Grandma. I probably would have went with Schwei as executive chef and Bailey as front of house. I think that would have been a better result. Because Schwei was horrible. He didn't. They had to actually call him over to the table and say, "Hey, come here and talk to us." Like, if the judges are doing that, that's not good. That's not good.
Whatever. Now I'm thinking about it more, right? And I'm thinking about how he said, like, I work in an open kitchen, like I can turn the charm on. I relate to that because I work in open kitchens, and I feel like it's like my little inside joke of like, it's 3, 2, 1, 5 p.m. Turn the lights down, put your costume on, and smile. And I mean that in a silly way. We love what we do, but it's a hard job. And so at 5 o'clock, you have to turn on that. I've been prepping all day and I've mentally been up here, I'm thinking about the food, but now I have to fix my face. And I think hearing him say that, I was excited because there's a difference in like the chef front of house role and a front of house role. I think that he played the chef front of house role. It was casual. It was, how you doing, chef? Oh man, I'm going to be honest. I'm tired. Like a lot of these open kitchens, sometimes it's like, oh, the end of the night, like, can I buy the chef a drink? And you're like finishing their meal and you're just like kicking it with them. I think it's a very casual vibe. And he probably does do that a lot, but that's not really what they needed on this team today in this challenge.
Yeah. Schwei was, I don't know why he picked front of house because the way he delivered to me looked like he's never done front of house before. And I was like, that was a bad choice. I don't know. So, but hindsight's 2020. It's okay.
He didn't go home.
But he didn't go home, but I really thought he was going to. Like it could have been a coin toss of who went home for the losing team there. So I want to talk about the decision of not splitting up to go shopping. Like you've seen 22 seasons of this show. You're only given a limited amount of time. They knew they only had 4 hours to shop and prep. And they're like, no, we're all going to go as one big happy group. No, that's nothing. I mean, the commute alone between Whole Foods, I don't know how far Whole Foods and the specialty market was, but it's, at least maybe 20 minutes. So you're losing time in the commute and they don't account for that. I'm like, why are you? And you got like 15 BMWs at your disposal. So go and do, right?
Yeah.
What do you think they were thinking about? I mean, I heard on the show, like, we're a team. We're going to do this as a team. Yes, you're a team, but you got to delegate. You only got 4 hours. What was the thought process, do you think, behind that?
Not everything is a 4-person job.
Right, exactly.
You see the coworkers who don't want to split up and they're like helping, like put the coffee, you know what I mean? Like everyone's two-handing it. I get it. I get the weird team we're sticking together. I think that maybe it was an overcorrection if you, I'm just putting myself in their head, but like if you were to watch the show and you're like, you know what, I've just seen a lot of episodes where someone gets to the store and then that person's prepping and they're trying to get their ingredients and they get the wrong thing because they can't get a hold of them, or you're sometimes, like for us, they gave us burner phones and like they wanted us, maybe I feel like it could have been a really good opportunity for another sponsorship, but it was something along the lines of like, you can call, you can double check. So we were in one store and half of our team was in another store, and there does have like it gets a little messy. I think maybe that's what they were trying to avoid. I think they overcorrected because at the end of the day, if you're all still together, yeah, you can't divide and conquer. You need to, I think that Paula as the EC should have maybe made some like executive decisions. I just feel like we started seeing that a little too late, and it turned into more of a reactive, stressful thing versus a proactive, we're going to be prepared. And it was just a bad call. Like that one decision probably just set the stage for everything else that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. From that point forward, it was chaos for Team Grandma all the way through service, and it reflected in the food, because they're coming in rushing with an hour left to prep for service. I'm like, that's nuts. So whereas on the other side of that, Flora was completely organized, and it was amazing watching two teams have the same direction and come up with completely opposite ways of thinking about things. And this happens every season. It's so interesting to watch with Restaurant Wars. Every season, it's always like that. One team is completely composed and has a game plan and executes, and the other one is just like a bunch of whirling dervishes, just going crazy and trying to, get out of the weeds in service all night long. And it kind of fell that way this year as well. So it's that trope that just keeps on giving, and that's what makes the Restaurant Wars episodes so great to watch, because you're watching them going, it's like me watching a sporting event. Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Why are you all going together as a group and you have a watch on?
It's reliable, isn't it? Kind of like emotional support show. It's like I'm going to watch this Restaurant Wars episode, and I have a feeling I know what's going to happen, but it's still going to be surprising. It's going to wrap me up like a warm hug. Like
exactly.
That's how I felt watching it. And I think, you just never really know who's going to come out on top. The one thing I do appreciate about this Restaurant Wars, and maybe I just have bias because I'm still stuck in my trauma, but I love that they both executed their vision well. And like, even if unfortunately, like some of the food seemed to fall flat, right? But they said in the beginning, like, we understood the concept on both teams and we thought that you guys had a very good through line. And that is one of the hardest things. It sucks to like make shitty food or have dishes that weren't seasoned well, because it feels like you did the hardest part already and you just kind of fell flat on the things that you do every day.
Yeah, when I interviewed Buddha Lowe a couple of years back for my podcast, and we were talking about Restaurant Wars, and he said what makes or breaks a team for Restaurant Wars is if you don't have a through line, nothing else will matter. If you don't have a unifying theme to your dishes, to your restaurant, then the food's not going to come out the way it is. The service isn't going to come out the way it is, or the way it needs to be. So I think you're right. Even though Team Nona had, the lesser of the dishes, their theme came through loud and clear. And I thought it was a really good theme. I would go to a restaurant like that and check it out. But yeah, unfortunately, the time management piece caught him at the end in preparing the dishes. So this brings us to the major incident that happened with Tristan, and just heartbreaking of what happened. We're in the middle of prep, and a production assistant comes out and says, "Hey, Tristan, we got an emergency phone call from your family. We don't know what's going on, but you need to call home." So he calls home, finds out his stepdad has had a stroke and was in a coma, and by the time service rolls around, he passed away. Just gut wrenching. Everything kind of grinds to a halt in terms of the flow of the show and everything. Just and hearing him talk about his mom saying, don't you come home, don't you quit, you keep going. And he had every objective reason to go home, and no one would have thought less of him to do that. But he's like, I listened to my parents. I'm gonna stick around. I'm not gonna quit. I'm gonna deliver for my team. And the way his team rallied around him and really respected his decisions as executive chef and supported him and saw his vision carried out, really was inspiring to watch. And then we're jumping ahead to judges table, but watching all the judges react to the news as he's talking about it, and Kristen saying, look, you don't have to be on all the time. I was, I was wiping tears from my eyes. My mascara was running. It was, I mean, I had to pause the thing and go fix my face, because it was just so hard and inspiring to watch at the same time. What are your thoughts on that?
I was trying like not to cry right now. I told you before we started, I had to get ready twice because I cried all my makeup off. And I guess you did the same. I was watching this, and you see Nora come in. Actually, like, just to give a shout out to Nora, huge producer on the show and bad bitch, like runs everything, right? I could see the look on her face, and it's just like, imagine having to tell someone that. Imagine getting that call. They essentially, they have like these 911 phone numbers if they need to get in touch with someone. So when you're getting that call, it's bad. And I really think 15 minutes left of the pack, and like I couldn't imagine like a worse time. Restaurant Wars is a 2-day competition. You don't really come out of it for 2 days. They hadn't even had service yet. So like the timing, everything is terrible. Obviously, I can't imagine worse news. The only thing I could compare that to, would be your other parent, right? And to see him receive that, and when he like sat down, like my whole body, I was just like, I got chills, because you just imagine what that feels like. It's like a gut punch, and you're already on camera and you're already going through all this stuff. It's so hard. And then he walked back in to the kitchen, and Rich, it was like so incredible to see. Like he looks like he's obviously not okay. The team takes a second and they're like checking the vibe. And I just feel like so many people can relate to that, and like, you want to support your person, and you're just trying to make sure, like, sometimes it's like if you hug them, it makes it worse. And so everyone took a second, and he got it together, and they're like, we're going to push. And I mean, they just kept that going throughout service the next day and all the way to the judges table. I was curious if the judges, I mean, I'm sure they had to have known something, right? Like, I don't know if that does, or maybe they don't. Maybe they don't want it to affect, and they did not tell them. I have no clue. But when they found out, and how much he like held his composure up until he actually told them at judges table, takes a very strong person. Sorry to get a little emotional, but like, this episode really touched me, and I think that I already loved him, and now I like love him more. It's like a warrior mentality.
Yeah, the way he just stepped back into the kitchen and got back to work amidst the emotions that he had to have gone through, and not only going through those emotions, but having to do it in front of a camera, right? And on TV in front of the world, it is just not something I can't imagine going through. I will never be in that position. It's amazing the fortitude that he had to do that, and the love of the rest of his family to tell him to keep going, to tell him to continue, that your stepfather would have wanted this for you, to not quit, and to keep going. So it was just amazing.
Yeah. I want this to be, I told Justin, I said, obviously, we'll get to the end, but like, he turned it on, he made it happen. I am getting this feeling that like, just watch out now, because take someone who's already killing it, and it's like a villain origin story or something, right? Like, it's almost like nothing left to lose. Like, I'm coming for you. And that gives me chills again. Incredible. And when Tom said your parents did an incredible job with you, I sobbed again. I cried like a baby. I was like, oh my God, Tom's a dad. You know what I mean? And like, he's a chef. And for him to like, everyone has, some type of, either have parents that you have a loving relationship with. Maybe you have someone else in your life that acts as that role. I think most people can relate to like that person. And the judges, like, seeing him kind of fall apart after these 2 days of just keeping it together, for Tom to say that is like, very heartwarming.
Yeah, and it was just really amazing to watch. And then we're jumping ahead to judges table a little bit, but Tristan winning the thing, going through everything that he went through, and then at the end winning the thing. I mean, Hollywood couldn't have wrote a better script for this movie, right? It just all kind of naturally went together like that, and good on him. But you're right, he's he's already cooking on a different level, but now he's got this other motivation that nobody else has, going into the rest of the show.
He didn't go home, right? So it's like it would have been totally acceptable. I almost went home because I had a small cut on my hand. Do you know what I mean? Like, not really, but like everyone thought I was going to. They were like, if you need to, whatever. It's like, what? Like, this guy is doing insane stuff. It is insane that he stayed. And I mean that in a positive way. Like, it takes so much strength. And I'm so glad he did. And it would have been okay if he left, but he stayed and he wins. And it's like, man, I am so happy. And the fact that he's still there, I mean, just if you decided to stay and not go home, you are going to make it worth it.
Yeah, exactly. But as they say, the show goes on, and we're right back into restaurant wars and going into service. They're training servers, and so we come off of this moment right into kind of like this humorous moment with Massimo. I mean, I knew Massimo was loud, right? I did not realize how loud he really is in this loud, echoey warehouse. And poor Schwei, I mean, he's doing his confessional interview. You hear Massimo yelling in the background. He's trying to train servers. You hear Massimo yelling in the background. It's just hilarious, the way Massimo is. So let's talk about dinner service. So we get through the prep. The restaurant's looking great. We get to dinner service, and again, Schwei's not greeting anybody at the door, at the table. You know who had a good day? The temp staff waiter that was dealing with the judges table. I mean, he was in every scene because Schwei wouldn't do it, and he's gonna have that little moment in time. Go, look, I served Tom, I served Kristen, and so
he's gonna get any job he wants.
Exactly. Good for him. And
I love how.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. I love how Schwei was like, "Okay, you're my lead server."
Right. And Schwei's excuse was, "Oh, I just don't know when to go up and talk to him. I get really nervous." And I thought back to your Restaurant Wars season. Michelle kind of had a little bit of that too. She was like, I'm just going to kind of stand off and kind of let things happen gradually. I'm like, no, you get on that table and you talk to him, Michelle.
I know.
So Schwei had the same thing.
I thought about it. I thought about Michelle, and I was like, what would I do? And I was thinking about it, and I think everyone would have that moment of like, I don't want to bother them. It's too much, whatever. But in reality, if I'm talking to myself and I was having that moment, I would hope that I would override my own thought process and be like, you're saying that because you're scared. Like, you're saying that because you don't want to go up to them because it's intimidating, and that's okay. But like, you're not in real danger. Everything's okay. Let's like 10 toes down. Let's like ground ourselves and walk up to the table. I don't know if I would have been able to do that in the moment, but I think that's what that really is, because in reality, I can't imagine. Have you ever seen a Restaurant Wars where like the front of house person pulls up a chair and doesn't leave? Like, no, it's never been too much.
Yeah.
Not that I can remember.
Massimo was almost there.
He was like kind of laying down.
Yeah. So on the flip side of that, let's talk about Massimo's front of house kind of philosophy. He got a little stalkery around between second and third courses. I think they were talking, and then he kind of is lingering in the background, and they're like, "Yeah, I feel like we're being handled." But I think you almost want to have that versus I would rather it almost be too much than not enough if I was the front of house, because Massimo, he did so well. Like, he gets up there and he does the server classic move to crouch down, get at eye level with the diners, and build a rapport and talk to him. Now, Janet, the Top Chef Canada judge, was not a fan of that, but studies shown when you do that, servers get more tips. The customers perceive the service as being better. But I thought it was great.
Studies show that?
Studies do show that. I Googled it. That tips are better, and the customers feel that the service is more friendly versus standing up and looking down on me as the customer. So, but Janet wasn't a fan, but I thought opposite. I thought this is what you do. You make an impression. But Janet thought no, it was too casual for the brand of upscale and refined. And I was like, yeah. To me, I was like, Janet, you're in your CEO ivory tower too long. You don't know what it's like among the people, among the commoners.
That's fair. And he also crushed his dish. I just don't really want to hear, like, to be honest, I hear it. Okay. I think that they needed to find something. I don't know. I don't think he was perfect, right? But I think that he was a lot better than Schwei in the front of house. And I think that he also executed they loved his dish. So I don't know.
Yeah. Janet, what's the problem? I mean,
yeah,
it's okay. It's great. And you saw him schmoozing the tables. I mean, he did fantastic as front of house, and Janet can go open another restaurant, I guess.
I like the moment where he was like, things get backed up, and that's totally normal. And as front of house, it's my job to make sure that people get fed and nobody notices. And if they do, that I make them feel okay. And something like that. And I thought that was very true. And I love that he was embodying that. Like, this team, in my opinion, did a good job of like owning their shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They had a game plan. They executed it well. And I thought vegetable forward was a risk, but they were able to pull it off in their dishes. And I got to thinking after I watched the episode, I'm like, there aren't a lot of vegetable forward restaurants out there. There's vegan, sure, vegetarian. Mm-hmm. But there's not a lot of them. And I'm kind of wondering now with, like, I don't know, you're a restaurant owner, with prices going up on a lot of things, maybe being vegetable forward is a way to save costs on overall food costs. I don't know, but
I think
there should. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I loved the vegetable forward idea. Like, whenever Massimo was like, let's do Canada, I was worried. It gave me like flashbacks to like Channel. Ours was messy. Like, we were trying to be, I'm from here and I'm from here and I'm from here and the waterways connect us. We were really reaching, right? And then it gets so easily clouded, and that worked against us. And I think that like Massimo was like, oh, like, let's do this. He's from Canada, right? Like, of course he wants to do that. And I think it would have gotten really messy really fast. So when Tristan was like vegetable forward, and Massimo was like, what do you mean? Like, no proteins? I don't know. The way Tristan was describing it, that's the food that I like to cook. So I commonly will refer to the food that I make as like vegetable forward, but it's not vegan or vegetarian. And he, him explaining to him like, no, we're going to build like these beautiful, rich stocks using like bones. And it's just a creative way. You're basically just taking something and you're flipping it. And the modernization of the cuisine in the restaurant is that you're flipping it on its head. Normally vegetables are the side and the protein's the main. We're going to give it to you reversed. And I think it's really smart, and it's pretty common and like modern nowadays, but I'm glad they went with that direction. I'm glad Tristan spoke up, because I think it could have been bad if they went with the other route.
Yeah. Massimo, when he said that, I kind of cringed too, because then I'm like, now you're going to force the food into the theme as opposed to making the theme shape the food. You know what I'm saying? What you were saying with Channel, like you had the concept and you're trying to force dishes into that, as opposed to letting the theme kind of help develop the dishes. So I'm glad Tristan won out on that one. And obviously it worked out at the end at judges table. But let's talk about the individual dinner services. So Team Nona goes first. And the first course was a Chipotle arancini that Bailey was responsible for, and Schwei did a fruity de mar with aguachile and chicharron. The arancini was a hit. Aguachile was lackluster, lack spice. They said there was some confusion with the diners on how many arancini they're supposed to get with an order, because you order family style arancini. I don't know. I'm kind of looking for a half dozen, I guess, more than, what did they get, 4 or something like that?
I mean, 1 per person.
Sure.
Whatever the math is in my mind. Yeah, 1 per person.
Yeah. Yeah, so there was some confusion there on the diners, but the arancini apparently tasted really, really well, really good. The second course was an ancho braised short rib with polenta, ricotta salata, and roasted apples. That was Caesar. Cannelloni al forno with toasted pepitas and almond romesco for Bailey. The short rib tasted good, but the consistency of the polenta was off-putting. And then there was warm, wet, whole nuts in Bailey salata.
Yeah,
that was kind of off-putting. So first two courses, what are we thinking in terms of the theme, in terms of the progression?
I thought it was fine. I don't know. I to be honest, in general, I was much more interested in the food on Flora and Fauna's team. I know we're not even really talking about that yet, but that is kind of like, I think it's more memorable. The pasta that Bailey did, I thought that was smart. I love that she was like, doing her thing. I just wasn't really, I don't know, I guess I wouldn't have gone out of my way to order any of these. And that's just personal preference as well. Yeah, I actually don't have a ton of thoughts about their first few dishes. I'm realizing I don't. Is that bad?
I mean, no. I mean, I think that's reflective of what was presented. It was just there. It was fine, but it didn't blow anybody away. It didn't make anything memorable. Whereas, like you were saying with Flora and Fauna, I'm remembering those desserts now as I'm thinking back to the show.
I'm thinking
the
about
desserts
the
on Flora
pot
and Fauna
liquor and everything.
Yes,
I'm thinking about
exactly.
their first dishes. The pithy. How do you say it? I can't say it, but I mean, everything they did, I feel like I can really recall, and I recall the desserts on grandma team because it didn't go over well. So I don't know, maybe it's just like bias, but
yeah, I don't know, but let's talk about dessert on grandma's. Pretty bad. We had a trip. I'm sorry.
I know.
It was some blood.
Funny.
It was bad. It was bad. You had a tres leches that was dry and dense. Like, how do you do that? I mean, it's
the opposite of a tres leches.
Why are you even calling it that at that point? And then you had churros that were dry and like a biscuit, which is again the opposite of a churro, which is light and airy and like. What went wrong? Like, how does I get like your dessert can be a little bit off, but to be the complete opposite of what you're actually calling it that takes a special kind of talent, right? To make a tres leche dry and dense to become a nutty pound cake, that's that's some next level mistakes.
Pound cake is more grandma than tres leches, in my mind. Pound cake is very grandma, so why not just call it? I mean, I don't know. What did she say? Like, it's like a tres leche? I don't remember exactly, but I know that like the connection was, oh, we have this and I make it. And I love the idea at first. Anything that's like, oh, it's supposed to be this, but we only use 3 ingredients and it's delicious is intriguing. But I just don't think that it obviously screamed tres leches, and they're very into verbiage and they need it to make sense. So that was kind of disappointing. I think that especially with them rushing everything, if you're really trying to like give off grandma vibes, in my mind, grandma food is low and slow. And it's I've been cooking all day and come sit down, honey.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
And I feel like the judges probably tasted that. And I was also bummed because Cesar is like fantastic. And he's made some really cool dishes. I think the desserts have really stood out to me that he's made. And this just didn't really feel like he was, I don't know. I just feel like they all kind of like muddled together. And then all of a sudden it was like, I'm not seeing any of these chefs, like they've shined in other episodes. And for some reason, when you put the 4 of them together, I feel like I don't remember much about what they cooked. I don't think that they put their best foot forward. And I don't think that they did food that they would have done otherwise. Maybe that's duh, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. When I hear grandma cooking, I hear rustic, I hear comforting, I hear rich, I hear somewhat decadent, and I don't think I got that with Team Nona. And just from beginning to end, as soon as the organization started happening, as soon as they basically from when they started shopping forward, I'm like, yeah, this is the team that's not going to win. Grandma's going down, and that's unfortunately what happened. And you're right, we don't have a lot of thoughts on here because it was just not great food. Even from the looks of it, none of it really looked that great to me. Unfortunately, I would not go to that restaurant.
And I hate Oh man, do I think this? I don't know. I'll say it.
Safe space, safe
I
space.
think that, yeah, right. I'm like, it's okay. It's not like it's being recorded. I believe that it almost hurts them more that the other team had this insane tragedy that didn't muddle them and didn't confuse them and didn't stop them. Like, they had everything working against them. I mean, not just Tristan, obviously, more than anybody else, but when your chef is going through something like that, I mean, it clouds everyone's judgment. It clouds everyone's brain. They're all worried about like so many other things than just service. And for their food to still be, in my opinion, more memorable, more interesting, better executed, etc., I guess it kind of just like makes the other team a little less impressive again, because it's like, man, you guys didn't have to work against that.
Yeah. Yeah, when you put it that way, that's exactly right. I mean, the Team Flora was working against some emotions, like Tristan going through what he was going through, and everybody kind of indirectly feeling that and feeling emotional for him, and all four of them still having to cook through that. It almost reminded me, I'm just thinking about this now. I don't know if you watched Avengers, the original 2012 Avengers movie, Captain America and all that stuff. Like when Coulson died, that was the inciting event that got all of these personalities together to finally act as a team and get it together. Yeah. That's kind of what happened here, with this emotional thing that Tristan is going through. It brought that team together, united them as a group, and really wanting to have Tristan have a good night through all of this, and that's what got him through the end.
It was coming from a very like, it almost, dare I say, Team Flora gave me more grandma vibes. They were like, I feel like they like saw their friend and he needed a lot, and like they did it. And like, that's what your grandma does. Like, what do you need? Like, I'm going to take care of you. And I think they took care of you. I'm going to get emotional again. Oh God, I think they took care of each other. And I was really, this is like my favorite restaurant wars I've ever seen. And I hate everything that happened, but I am so inspired by how they pulled it off. And like, against all odds, I just feel like I watched like a 2-hour movie and I'm going to like change my life now. You know what I mean? It feels changed.
Yeah, I'm coming through a different person on the other side of this. But so let's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I have to throw in this one moment because it was probably my favorite little moment.
Yeah.
I told you there was like a lot of little comments whenever Lana had the pot liquor, and she was like walking up to Tristan, and she said something like, "I'm gonna check on my pot liquor now," and then like she gives him a bite. And then it goes to her face and she's like, sorry, it's hot. It's like, how many people have like, she just reminded me of like that young chef, walking through like, hey, I'm having a good time. I can't imagine anybody I would want to work with more than Lana, to be honest. And then you give it to your chef and you have a second of like, oh, fuck, that was hot. Like, it's kind of like snapping back in. And they were so silly, especially her like breaking the third wall and looking at the camera when they were shopping and trying to get people to make decisions. I'm really enjoying watching her just from an entertainment perspective, but also like her food and her flavors and her POV is just on point. I think she's killing it.
Yeah, Lana was another standout. I'm glad you brought her up. She was another standout in this episode with her idolizing Nina Compton. Like this is the chef that she wants to be, and for all the reasons that she stated. Being a young Black female chef, it's tough in that industry, and she looked to Nina as that role model. So it was really great to see her kind of fangirling out over Nina Compton being there and using that as fuel for her. It's like, I really want to impress Nina. So yeah, it was really cool to see Lana. And she was fun in the kitchen. She's got such a great attitude and so happy in the kitchen. She's just like happy to be there, right? And it's having a ton of fun. It was really, really good.
It reminds me of this, I believe is it Quinta Brunson? I listened to Amy Poehler's podcast, and she just did an interview with her, and the creator of Abbott Elementary. Yeah. And she was talking about how when women are very good at their jobs, a lot of times you get put into this like, oh, if that person is cold and not very friendly or whatever, they're probably really good, right? Like they own what they do. They're like masculine. They put out this energy and this whatever. Maybe it's a facade, maybe it's not. And in this interview I was listening to, she was talking about how like she really enjoys what she does, and like she can be really good at her job, but she also likes, showing up and having this energy and this vibe and this lightness to her, because that's the type of place that, she wants to work and who she wants to work for. And listening to that interview, really relating to that message, and then watching Lana in this episode, I was like, that girl's good and she's having fun. And that's the key right there.
That's a scary combination. When you're good at your job and you're fun and you're having fun doing it, that's a scary combination to have.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Flora's dinner service as a whole. So we already kind of waxed poetic about Massimo's front of house skills. I like that he greeted the judges at the door with a glass of wine and was really making them feel welcome. But then Tom calls him out and says, I didn't see him doing that with the other guests. And then I was like, well, there's a reason for that. VIPs exist. That's just life. That's just how it goes, right? So, I mean, I'm a nobody from nowhere. So if Tom Colicchio is behind me waiting at a restaurant, I'm not going to expect a glass of wine to be handed to me, because I just understand the hierarchy of things, fair or not fair. That's just how life goes.
What I'll say to that, Rich, if I can, not that I disagree with you, but I think the point Tom is making is, and I don't think he should have said it because it's restaurant wars. It's not real life right now, right? Like, this is a separate thing. I'm sure Tom is thinking like, well, if this was an actual restaurant, like, you don't treat everyone like a VIP. Not everyone is, important. Like, you don't want to make everyone feel special. And I think that there's a lot of people, even on a day-to-day basis, if we're going into pre-shift at our restaurant back home in Durham, we'll look at, okay, here's the VIP, and let's make sure we send them this or that. And, you take account of those people. A lot of times it's because they have a better idea of what's going on. Their industry, they're this, like, we want to pay extra attention because sometimes people who don't really know what's going on, we can kind of hide the fluff or, disguise some things if we're having a rough time. I just think that, like, Tom's point, I understand, but it's restaurant wars and you guys are the judges. I love these people, but it's these tables 6, 7, and 8 aren't going to see me back at the warehouse in 3 hours and send me home. Like, so I'm most likely going to pay more attention to you. Yeah. Like, duh.
Yeah.
So I see both sides. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that's kind of what I was getting at, is like, of course he's going to treat you like that because you're the judges. Like, that's what it is. But, I think for me in general, I don't know, I guess I'm kind of self-degradating, I guess, but I just understand if I'm going to a restaurant and there's a celebrity walking in, or somebody important, or somebody's having a birthday, I get they're going to get special treatment. Like, I didn't get a free birthday cake. No, it's not my birthday, but I should deserve a free birthday cake too. It's just, I'm just not like that. If I see somebody getting special treatment, I'm like, good for them, good for them. Happy for them, and move on. But yeah, the way he called him out, to me, the way it sounded like is, why aren't you doing this for everybody else? But it's restaurant wars. That's why he's not doing it for everybody else.
Yeah.
But let's talk about their dishes, because their dishes looked great. So the first course was a cured and smoked trout with the pot liquor consommé that we talked about a little bit from Lana. And then also grilled mushroom escabeche with Canadian-based scallop, ajo blanco, and dawa dawa from Tristan. The judge said the consommé was good. Nina didn't like the raw greens. Tristan's mushroom dish was a huge hit among the table. And Kristen appreciated that the chefs came out and described the dishes, which I thought was a nice touch. It wasn't Massimo doing all the talking, and it wasn't some temp waiter doing all the talking. It was the chefs coming out and describing their own dishes. So at the end, at judge table, you don't have to ask, okay, who did what? They all knew. So what did we think of the first course here?
Oh, incredible. Like, I can tell you everything. I also want to just say that them walking out to the table, I agree. When I saw that, it kind of broke my brain. And I was like, why didn't we do that? Like, why didn't we do that? In the restaurant on a daily basis, if you're in an open kitchen or not, there's plenty of times as a chef that you're going to be like, hold on, let me like press my apron down a little bit, like fix my collar and take this dish out to the table. And I'm going to that's like the ultimate VIP experience, is like the table touch from the chef that's coming out of the kitchen. So for them to do that, it not only like gives people the opportunity to represent their own food. I don't want you to describe my dish. If they ask you a question, I don't want you to look like you don't know the answer. Let me go. I'm the pro. But it also gives that face time and that extra touch. So I love that. As far as the appetizers, like not appetizers, the first course, I thought Tristan's dish sounded incredible. I love like anything escabeche to begin with, but just the way that he was bringing in like every dish that he does, it reminds me of something I've had, but then he turns it upside down and he throws in an ingredient or a spice or something that I've never heard of. And so I feel like it's just very intriguing. And yeah, you already know how I feel about Lana and her food. So I thought it was gorgeous, and I thought it was simple and refined and smart, and it showed where she's from and where she wants to go.
Yeah, it was great. Awesome all around first course. Way to start a dinner service. So second course, we had potato, celery root, and truffle pithivier, if I'm pronouncing that right, with lamb jus from Lana, and a butternut squash confit with grilled pork and exo sauce from Vinny. Look, the biggest nitpick that they had on Vinny's dish was it was too balanced. there was just as much pork as there was squash, and it should have been more squash. I'm like, at that point, you're looking for nits to pick. But his dish looked amazing. I love the little like kind of quarter moon shape thing that he did with the squash, and then the pork little medallion right there in the middle. I thought it looked fantastic, looked good. I would definitely eat it. They did say Lana's dough was slightly raw. And then so what did you think of this course here?
I mean, again, like everything from Vinny being a line cook, I thought was Vinny and Lana being line cooks, I thought was so smart. I think a lot of people, focus on the EC and the front of house, but then they're like, okay, whoever's left will be these people. Their line cooks need to be strong, and they need to be a very specific type of personality. These two can hold their own, and they put up these dishes like Vinny's squash. They said that's like the best squash they've ever had, right? To be able to just execute something like that so well. And from the beginning, he's the one that's like, I don't want to make a prep list while we're shopping. I'm going to show you, chef, like this is what I'm thinking for the plating. He has a vision, and he stayed with it. He made choices to get him to where he wanted to go, and it worked out. Like he just feels steady to me. He feels steady.
Yeah.
And that dish was beautiful. The pithivier, I can't say it. Someone's gonna listen to this and be like, I need to teach them how to say this word. But the lamb jus I thought was really smart. Like, again, I just love the whole concept, and I thought it was like kind of ambitious because that's a task to do that. And if it was a little raw, I guess I'm just like, I think I am biased at this point. I'm like, it's okay. It's okay if it was a little raw.
It's okay. Nobody's perfect. It's fine.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah. So we get to the third course, the dessert course, and I think this is what really sealed the deal for Team Flora because both of these desserts looked amazing. So we have a corn cremeux with corn ice cream, grilled blueberry, a condiment, and a blueberry crisp from Massimo. I love what he said. He said, break the crisp with energy and eat it in harmony. I felt like he wasn't even thinking of words. They were just like coming out as he was saying it. But hilarious.
He's poetic.
He's very poetic. He's very funny, poetic. And then we had a milk custard with quote unquote dirt chocolate and caramelized parsnip, which I thought was a bold choice, parsnip, from Tristan. Massimo's dessert was called Stunning, and Tristan's dessert was called Decadent. Tom said it was a great way to end the meal. Both desserts look fantastic. I don't have words. I mean, Massimo's looked like it belonged in a Michelin star dessert menu. It looked really, really good. And then the dirt was such a play on the whole veg forward thing, and then throwing in parsnips on top of that. Like I wouldn't have thought of that. What'd you think overall?
I mean, gorgeous. Loved it. Beautiful. Would eat, would order, would come back, eat and order again. I loved I mean, obviously you try to think about balance, right? But like they had a decadent, like chocolate forward option. And then they had something that's a little bit more light and creamy. And it's helpful that these are both executed well, because I also think that, like, to be honest, when like Paola was describing the cake that she was going to do, I was excited about that at first. So, they really played into the theme. I love the dirt chocolate. It kind of gave me a flashback to Supper Club when Dan did the rye breadcrumbs and he did the crudité where he like dipped it in that little like play. It's dramatic. And it was just like a nice finish. They just like kind of like crushed it.
Yeah, the dichotomy between these two teams was just on so opposite ends of the spectrum. Such a clear winner, such a clear loser. I don't think there was a way to edit around that to make it seem close, because it was just two two opposite ways of philosophy, of thinking, of shopping, of cooking, of prepping, of service. Like total opposite in every aspect of building a pop-up restaurant in 24 hours on Restaurant Wars. Um, was insane. And I was just watching this going, how can two groups of people execute two so diametrically opposite things? And I don't know. It was just amazing to watch just how it all played out at the end.
I agree. I think I said this last week. Favorite episode so far. But and I guess you going through that, I guess like the only other thing I want to say is like I think Cesar is really good. And I think that he has a really like I just could see him potentially winning. That's like I know we're not even there yet, but like he's been in the back of my brain as like somebody who I'm like, God, I just like I want to see more from him. I was disappointed that like we just didn't really get a lot of him. And I think that if maybe he had the opportunity to, I don't know what the dynamics were on that team. I think he may have been like maybe not EC, but like I just think that he could have pushed them forward more. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he'll have a Savannah type journey. Well, he'll turn it on in the back half and find himself in the finals, and we're all going, "Where did you come from?" Like, I don't even remember that you were on the show the first half of the season. I'm just kidding.
I know. No, I mean, people have actually said that. My family was like, "Hey, so this is like season 21 that you told us to watch, right? Is this the right season?" But anyway, so I just comment about him. I think I'm curious about his future.
It'll be interesting to see as the competitors start to thin out. We're at 8, right? So there's nowhere to hide anymore. He's going to have his breakout moment if he's going to stand out, because you can't hide in the middle. There's no more middle to kind of fall into. So let's get into judges table. I mean, we kind of talked a little bit about judges table all throughout the episode or all throughout the pod here, but obviously the winning team was Team Flora and Fauna with their PH funny sounding name. But just high praise all around, I think, for every dish and every chef. I don't think they had really any meaningful criticisms other than Vinny's balanced dish. God forbid. And then, Massimo being a little too casual versus being a little bit more, buttoned up. Again, I don't think those are really criticisms more than they are just preferences versus a brick of a tres leche cake or a biscuit of a churro. I think those two things that they're saying about Flora and Fauna are more just personal preferences. Janet prefers a more buttoned up service to match the food that's on the plate. I don't mind it being casual. Now, I guess if I went to Ever or Alinea, maybe I wouldn't want the waiter to like crouch down and look at me in the eye. That would be weird. But both restaurants kind of gave a casual feel with upscale food. So I was okay with it. But yeah, I think there were more personal preferences than actual criticisms. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that they needed, again, like, I don't know. I'm sure there were moments that like it felt close, right, to some people. And my interpretation of it is, towards the end, I definitely agree with you that I think I knew who was going to win. And maybe it's like one of those things where you're at judges table and I don't know if it was like trying to create more suspense or if it was like, we can't just give you, I mean, I don't think that they thought they were perfect across the board, but I agree. I think they were reaching. I think that at a certain point, when you're giving so much feedback and criticism to the other team, there you have to balance it, even just for TV purposes. Like, I think that they need to worry about a few things and make sure that they bring them up. But like, if you were to look at the comments side by side, it's clear who won.
Yeah, clear. Absolutely. Yeah. So the overall winner was Tristan. Again, great storybook ending to the episode that he had for him today. What's this, his third elimination win? Fourth? Third? I don't know. Maybe it's fourth. How many episodes are there? 8? So there's 8 episodes. I gotta say it's his fourth. I feel like somebody fact check me in the comments, but I think it's 4.
It's probably his 4th in a row, right?
Yeah, something like that. It's pretty close. But the guy's cooking on another level. I mean, I'm running out of adjectives to think about this and describe what Tristan is doing episode after episode. So yeah, nice job. Congratulations, Tristan. I know you're stepfather's looking down, proud of you. So great job there. On the opposite end, you have Paula. Time management issues got the best of her, and she was the executive chef, so she takes the brunt of it and was eliminated. So she's off to LCK, which brings us right to LCK. The challenge is they have to make a dish with nostalgia, but give it a modern spin, kind of a play on the losing grandma team. And it's funny when Tom was describing what was going on, Katiana was like, what words are you using? I recognize them, but I don't understand them in the sentence that you're forming right now.
I also think Katiana, like, I'm not in her head, but I could imagine her listening, and in my brain she was saying like, why the hell was I not there? I should have been there, because like right. I probably could have helped some people. Like, I think that she would have been a menace in Restaurant Wars.
Oh yeah, she would have been fantastic. She was gone too early. But she's killing it in LCK. So the challenge was to make a nostalgic dish with a modern twist, and in honor of Paula's tendency to oversauce stuff, to put a sauce element on the dish that is proportional to the overall concept of the dish. So Katiana made seared scallops with snap peas and wasabi greens, potato, onion sauce, and yuzu soy and ginger sauce. So I had kind of two sauces there. Paula made an encocado sauced lobster with southern succotash. Both dishes, I think, look really, really good. But what got her was the proteins. Proteins are going to make you or break you on Top Chef.
Every time.
And she undercooked. And she had that concern that she was going to have an undercooked lobster. But, you know, it got her at the end. And ironically, too much cream.
Well, this is my thing. Like, is it not a little, I don't want to say embarrassing, because that's like, you know, it's relative. But like, if Tom's like, your challenge is to do this, this, and this, and to proportionately sauce the plate is part of the challenge, that's like him giving you a little bit of the answer to the question, like in the sense of like, okay, you have to cook proteins, but part of the challenge is you have to cook them perfectly. Duh. Like, I just feel like it's like, you would obviously want that. I thought it was a little bit of like throwing shade, obviously, you know, he's like, so cook good food and make sure that the basics are done. And I just feel like, I was like, ooh, that was rough. If I was Paula, I would have been taking that a little to heart. But Katiana, I also was like, she's probably like, yeah, okay. I don't understand. What?
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. He was basically giving the answers to Paula, and like, okay, Paula, this is exactly what I want you to do. I want you to improve on what we've been trying to tell you for the last 7 seasons, or the last 7 episodes. Don't oversauce your plate. And what does she do? She oversauces her plate. I was kind of laughing at the end. I was like, oh, you know what, Paula.
You know what I would have done? I would have like done it in like give him like a sauce pour, put the sauce on the side, and then be like, here you go, chef, and like make him pour it and be like, how much did you put on the plate, Tom?
Yeah, it's your fault. It's kind of like when me and my wife go to these like hot pot restaurants where you have to cook your food like right there at the table. They have like the tabletop grill. It's kind of like, what a brilliant concept. If you don't like the food, it's kind of your own fault.
That's my favorite joke to make. We have a dish, like a lobster shabu at the restaurant, where we cut a lobster tail and we slice it really like sashimi style, and it's raw, and it comes out, and you know, you pick it up and you dip it in this like hot, you know, like dashi butter, essentially, that's over a fire on your table. And so we'll have guests come in and we give them, you know, you should dip it for 30 seconds, 40 seconds, etc. And sometimes we'll have guests come in that are like, I want all my food cooked up, because we do a lot of raw stuff. And so when we send this dish out, it's my favorite joke to make to the staff. And I'm like, well, if they don't like this one, that's their fault. You know, like maybe cook it longer. But anyways, yeah.
I mean, it truly is. Like, what a brilliant way to run a restaurant. You can't send plates back because they're cooking it themselves. Hilarious.
Yeah, imagine you walk to the table like, you fucked it up.
So funny. So Katiana wins, killing it for your team again. I mean, she's making a run. Do we see her coming back? What are your thoughts? I mean, do you make a prediction here?
I think, if I'm being honest, I mean, anything can happen in the Top Chef kitchen, right? And I think that I liked her confessional being like, I'm not naive enough to think that like I couldn't get kicked out. I obviously, like, I think like Tristan or Bailey get eliminated, those would be the two that would worry me, because Bailey's done it and Tristan is just unstoppable. But I really feel that way about Katiana as well. And I think you can't make this happen. It has to just naturally happen. But how cool would it be if Kristen's second season, also like the mirror between Katiana and Kristen, like they have a very similar story. She was adopted. She grew up in like Michigan. She's Korean and all these things. I just think it could be very special and very heartwarming for her to come back from LCK and take it all, because that's exactly what Kristen did.
Yeah, that would be a very poetic bookend to this season if Katiana comes in, wins the whole dang thing. But can you imagine like a Katiana Tristan finale? Oh, that would be amazing. Amazing. So
I know.
Like I'm predicting it now. I think it'll be the final three be Vinny, Tristan, Katiana.
Really? I believe it will be Tristan, Bailey, and it's between Lana or Katiana for me. And
that's a good pick.
Maybe Caesar too. This is what I'm saying is like I think when I started this season, it took me a little while to like warm up to them, and maybe it's just because I just did it, and it's weird to watch it as a competitor and like put myself back as like a viewer lens. But I don't know. I'm like really, really enjoying these chefs at this point, and this might be one of the better seasons that I've watched.
Yeah, definitely a top episode as a single episode. Definitely top 5 in my book of episodes. So for sure. So let's get to the draft points as we want to get to see who's winning here. So on my team, we had Paula and Shuai that were on the bottom of the judges table, so -2 points each for them. Tristan, again, my ringer, won the thing. He gets 7 points. So with the negative points, but with Tristan kind of pulling me out of the negatives, I get 3 total points for the episode. You had the majority of the winning team. So you had Katiana winning LCK. She gets 2 points. Lana, Massimo, and Vinny being on the winning team there gets 3 points each for being on the top of the judge table. So you win the episode 11-3. That closes the overall gap to 4 points. I have 75 total for the episode. You have 71. So it's a ball game, folks. It's a ball game.
This is good. This is like they're making good TV. We're making good TV. Everyone's doing their jobs. Okay.
Everybody's pitching in. Everybody's pulling their weight. I appreciate all the chefs doing that without knowing who I am. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm like, the chefs are doing their part too. Yeah.
But it's coming down to the wire. I mean, we got a few episodes left. We're halfway through. It's basically a tie ball game with only 4 points separating us. It's getting exciting. We got a little bit of a sneak peek for next week. They're jumping off a building apparently, so stay tuned for that. Who knows what's going to happen there?
Yeah, nope, not for me.
Can you imagine? We're going to tether you to the Toronto Space Needle, and you are going to jump off.
I would be like, I'm not, but okay. I'd be like, anyways, so when do we start cooking? I have a huge fear of heights, and you have to sign like in your contract and stuff. Like, essentially, it's like if we ask you to do anything, will you do it? And you're saying that you're saying that you're okay with like it. There was something, like the fine print is always hilarious, but I wonder if it was like, are you okay with jumping off of a skyscraper and stuff like that? I have no idea, but I would have said no.
Yeah. So we'll see what next week brings. Looks to be exciting, especially after this emotion-filled episode. It'll be good to kind of go back and have something that looks completely off the wall and fun. So we'll see what next week brings. Savannah, what you got going on? You're in Jersey for a food and wine festival. So that's happening this weekend, which again, if you're listening to this the Monday after, it's already happened. But what is going to maybe already happened for the New Jersey Wine Festival this weekend?
Yeah, so by the time this airs, our dinner will be done. But what we're doing is it's Michelle and Sue and I. So we're in New Jersey, and they've done this for a number of years. And like the names that have been at these festivals are insane. Like I was talking to the coordinator last night, and big names. So I feel very lucky to be here. We are doing a Top Chef and Top Wine dinner. So tonight, it's kind of like kicking off the whole weekend. They bring in 3 people always from the previous season. So we're cooking with the chefs of the like resort. Essentially, they're going to do a few courses, and we're doing a few courses, and we're pairing it with a really nice wine. And there's like a winemaker coming in to talk about it. So that's what we're doing. And then tomorrow we get to hang out with Francis Malman a little bit. Big Argentinian chef, and he had like an episode on the first season of Chef's Table. Very inspiring. I think to me, I'm just trying to be like cool and not embarrass myself, because I would love to like connect with him and like talk to him. So that's like my main goal. It's like make a good dish tonight, but also like be very cool in front of Malman.
Just be cool. Just like act like you've been there before. It's that's what we got to do.
Yeah, right. But yeah, anyway, so if you guys see anything on Instagram, like give it a like. It'll be a good time.
Yeah. Speaking of which, where can they see all these fun pictures that I'm sure you're going to take?
Oh yeah, on my Instagram, you can follow me at SavvySav, SavvySavv.
Awesome. And don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast at Eat Your Content. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you'll know when things are coming. And if you like what we're doing, if you like this format, or if you don't like it, leave a comment, leave a 5-star review. And if you hated this episode, wait till next week. Listen to that one too.
It'll be the same. Yeah.
It'll be the same. So
we'll wear you down.
That's right. Chef Savannah, as always, thank you so much for your time. You're so generous. We went over, but Restaurant Wars is so much fun to talk about. And I'm glad you took the time with me to sit down and talk about your experience and what these people are going through on their Restaurant Wars. And I can't wait to talk about next week with you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you, Rich.